Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is entertainment news on Channels Television. And on our spotlight today is Nigerian-born recording artist and producer TomiFeels, who is steadily rising as a notable voice in Canada's music scene. Based in Winnipeg, the multi-talented musician born Tomiwa Omalayo is gaining attention for his innovative fusion of Afro beats, 80s synth pop, and soulful orchestral elements, a style he now calls Afro DM. He began his musical journey back in 2018 when he recorded his first vocals using GarageBand on his iPhone and describes his song as feel-good empowerment anthems for people navigating life's many battles, whether emotional, spiritual, or personal.
So, I make Afrobeats at the foundation. All the music that I make is Afrobeats at its foundation. But the sound itself, when everybody has been listening to it and people heard my sound and music, they always told me it sounds like Afrobeats, but it always sounds like something a little different. And I've always been this kind of person who likes to live in the moment, from my own production. I make all my music myself, literally from scratch. So I decided that why not just give it a name that's unique to itself so that everybody knows that this is that TomiFeels sound that you're getting. So it's like a spin on the Carpe Diem with Afrobeats, so merging Afrobeats and Carpe Diem together, so Afro DM. Let's bring it into one thing. Man, my earliest exposure to music, I would say it was in church. If anything, I started out in the choir in church, and then family trips that we would take with my mom from Lagos to Ibadan to all the other states across the country while she was driving. We'd listen to stuff like Ayefele, ABBA, sometimes Fuji music, other times country music, and there were a lot of musicals from Sound of Music to Hamilton to The King and I. There are different exposures to all these types of things. So I would say all those influences shaped by my own eclectic taste in music influence the kind of music that I make as well. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say there was culture shock per se, because I'd already been exposed to some of it here in Nigeria, like watching Disney Channel or DSTV, all these different things. You kind of know this is the kind of music that is popping off over there. But being in the system itself was one of the things that I finally saw it live and direct. Pop music and country music and folk music is really big in Canada. So, my own spin on that whole approach was also taking the music that we would call pop here in Nigeria, which is the Afro beats, put that into the kind of music I'm making, the folk music, which is our traditional Akpala, Fuji, and all the other songs that we have, and infuse that into my own type of music. So I took what they had and called popular on that side and infused my own explanation of what folk and pop was, and just infused it with a lot of energy. And they've been loving it. I want my music to connect to everybody who has a love for their homes, a love for the countries that they come from. Making music professionally as an immigrant in Canada, that experience shaped a lot of my sound. So I feel like a lot of people who come in or travel abroad or travel all across the world and have that missing or longing for home will connect to it first, because it's like one of those things like, okay, this sounds like here, but this also sounds like back home as well. So I would say it's a mix. It's a 50-50 type situation. The people in Canada love the music, the people in Nigeria also love the music, but we're trying to bring everybody on board, you know. I think technology is a very powerful tool that has given people who would not normally have access to the ability to produce music, to be able to produce it. One of the reasons why I started and imbibed the entire value chain was out of necessity. I didn't really have the funds at the time, so I started producing on my iPhone because it's like at that point in time, studio time in Canada was pretty expensive. I was a student in university, so it's like while I'm trying to figure out paying rent and buy textbooks and everything, on the list of priorities, studio sessions is not the biggest priority at the moment, but I really wanted to do this thing. So I taught myself how to do it, and I feel like the technology itself has opened the doors to people who would not necessarily have the opportunity that gatekeepers would have prevented from producing. So if anything, I think it's a step up in the right direction. So I recently released a 4-track EP called Love Me Like the First Day. So the idea behind the entire project is to encapsulate love in its novel form. You know, the very first time you meet somebody, there were those feelings, the butterflies. You're not necessarily thinking about the reality of what love from the perspective of doing is, like active love as opposed to just going with the feelings. So it's a 2-part project. The very first part is Love Me Like the First Day, and the second part, which is coming out later in the year, is going to be called But This Time the Right Way, which is going to focus on tracks that now involve active love and active forms of service in the romantic sphere, if anything.